So okay, the fields we've captured for the new aluminium coil, from the category of the aluminium to the code, the description of the coil. So for example, I've put in blue coil A5, the color of the coil, the original length of the coil from the manufacturers. So in this case, I'm estimating 5,001 meters. The manufacturer's weight of the coil, so in this case also I'm estimating 4,500 kg, and these other values for excesses and shortage, they will be captured after the coil has been used in production. This is when you will know if the length given by the manufacturers was the exact length of the coil, or if there are excess or shortage as a result of manufacturer's error. So there are also other parameters such as the cost price, the selling price of this coil. So I'm just going to quickly save this. So now I have my selling price is automatically loaded for me, and you can see the length, the weight, whether there's an excess, shortage, the color, the description, the code, and the category of the coil. Initially, you saw when I was creating a new coil, I selected categories. So for me to define these categories, I have to come to my main menu and item categories. So this is where I define those categories or selecting. So during defining your category, you could specify if it's a raw material or a purchased goods. So we have two types of categories here that will be quite useful for the aluminium coil. So there could either be raw materials or raw materials and purchased goods. So for the raw materials and purchased goods, defines the initial coil when the coil is bought as a whole, because if you can remember, I stated that this coil could be sold as an entire unit, or it could be used for production and sold based on the customer's cutting order. So for coils that were purchased to be sold as an entire unit, when creating your category, you have to define it as raw material and purchased goods, because it could be used as a raw material in the factory for production, or it could be sold as a purchased goods to customers willing to buy the entire coil from the company. So then once the coil is opened for production in the factory, the category will be automatically converted from raw materials and purchased goods to just raw materials, because in this case the coil can no longer be sold as a single entity. So other fields for defining categories of coils are fields like my selling price, my cost price, my income account, my expense account, unit of measure. I'm just going to take a brief moment to explain these account types. So for the income account, whenever I make a sale, either when I sell the coil as a whole or based on customer's cutting order, which account should the income be reported into? Your accountant will be able to understand this properly, so you can consult with them for more info, or you could give us a call for better explanation. And we also have the expense account. The expense account comes with the cost of purchase. When the material is used, either it's sold or it's used for production, an expense is recorded at that point. But all those are accounting terms, and your accountant will be able to understand this very well. I'm going to create a second coil, and this I'll call this B2. So let's say the color is red coil B2. So in the description field, you just want to describe it as much as possible. So you could easily use any term here to search for that particular coil when you're looking for it. Color likewise the length received from the manufacturers, and the weights received from the manufacturers. Like I said, the excess and the shortage value, you don't have this information at the point of creating the coil, so you should leave them blank and go ahead and click on save changes. So now we have two coils that we've entered in the system, and one is red and the other one is blue. So moving on to the point of receiving orders from our customers. So to receive orders from customers, the production order menu comes into play. So to take a new production order, you click on the production order menu under aluminium coil. Quickly bring you to a screen that says new production order. So from this screen, you could search for the customer if it's an existing customer of yours, or you could simply click on the new customer button to create a new customer. So in this case, my customer is Samuel Egiga, located in Wuse Zone 2. And, have his phone number, I can put that in, save. So you can see the prompt, new customer created, new customer Samuel Egiga successfully created. So moving on from this point, customer field, I can now search for Samuel. I have him here. Clicking on this button just gives you brief info about the customer that I selected. So now I can move on to take the customer's order. So I select the machine type. I have regular, step styles, or met copo. I select my coil type. So if I want these aluminium coil 0.45 120 mm, I go ahead and select this. So once I select my customer, my machine type of my aluminium coil, then the available coils appear with the description of the coil, the code, the color, the weight, and the length of the coil. So I'm going to see all that. So I can select the one I will be using. Then the quantity, how many units of this particular aluminium sheet does my customer Samuel want. So let's say he wants 12 units, and then the cutting order for each one is 2.45. I simply click on the add order. So based on the machine type that was selected, it would determine my conversion factor. So since I'm using regular, the conversion factor assigned to regular is 1.0, and my cutting order that the customer wants 2.5. So based on this, the Hyella simply calculates the quantity times the cutting order times the conversion factor to get the total length, and based on the unit price assigned to that particular aluminium coil, it now uses that to now calculate the total price. So you can use your calculator to cross-check these calculations if you don't trust Hyella. So let's say this customer wants additional aluminium coils. So let's say he wants the met copo, and for this he wants 15, or let me say 10 units, and his cutting order is 1.06 for these 10 units. So I simply click add. Also based on that, you can see the conversion factor for the met copo and the regular is 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. 1.06. different, and this is based on the different configurations of the machines. So also calculate 10 times the cutting order times the conversion factor to get us the total length times the unit price to get us the total price. So after receiving my cutting orders, we simply click on item 2, sales of accessories. If he or she is interested in buying any accessories, I'll be able to see the list of all my accessories available here, and I can click on them to add them to my cart. Currently there are no accessories on my database, so I move on next to stage 3. If there are other charges like cost of transportation, I simply put that in here, the 1,500 naira. Cost of loading, so I can keep adding charges one after the other. So clicking on my preview and confirm order, you can see my customer details. My invoice number is not yet generated, so it's going to be blank since this is a preview. I can start by seeing any extra charges and sales of accessories. For transportation and loading, the total comes to 8,005. I'm just going to quickly go back to the other charges tab so you can confirm this value, 8,005, 8,005. So the production order also, I'm going to see my production order categorized based on machine types and based on coil. So for the first order, I have my regular machine and I have the coil details that was used in creating that order. So I have the total 73,500, and my second order was my Medcopo, which totaled to 27,000, giving me a grand total of 101,000. So if I come to my cutting order pane, you can see the values match. Then finally, I have my net total. Before I confirm this transaction, I can also take in a comment. If there are any specific information from the customer, I can take this here. So I'm just going to say specific information from customer about the order. So I can add any general information here before I confirm my sale. And once I'm done with this, I can now go ahead and click on the confirm order button to confirm this transaction. After confirming the production order, you're going to have a printout that shows basically dates, the invoice number, you can see the accessories and the total amounts. You can see the production order and the total amount, and also the ground total. So now the order has been raised and saved. If you come to all sales invoice, you will see a historical list of all your orders with the comments from the customers. Also, your accountant also has the opportunity of seeing certain accounting reports, like the account receivable reports, whereby you see based on each customer, you can see their transaction over a period of time. You can click on it to pull back the order. You also have access to the income statement reports that shows you how much you're expecting to, or you've made from sales, even though the items haven't been produced or delivered yet. You can see other reports as your balance sheet reports, and clicking on this will also pull out details of each. So there are several accounting reports. Your accountants will be able to understand and interpret this better for you. The system can then be used to document production before the goods will be finally dispatched to the customer. So to document production, you remember in the example we did, you can see the sales invoice number is number 1, and this is the details of the invoice or the order. So all what the user needs to do is to come, click on the production manager menu, type in the invoice number 1, and click go. So once this is done, the system retrieves the production order. So as you can see, it has retrieved the production order. In bracket here, you have the total length of the order, which was 40.53 meters. So just underneath this, Hyella now gives you the option to specify if you're going to use a new coil or a new coil was used to produce this order on the factory floor, or an already opened coil was used. So currently there is no open coil, so I'm simply going to select a new coil. So here I'm going to have a list of all my new coils in the store. So once I select the coil, you can now see that it's Hyella specifies the quantity for me based on the total length of the coil. You can see the coil was 3,400 meters, so it shows me as my available quantity 3,400 meters. So at this point, this is a new coil. I'm just opening the coil, and production has been completed at the factory floor. So if the coil was exhausted from this initial order, the people on the factory floor will be able to give me a report that so length was left from the coil, or this was the total length that was left. So that will now form my excess. But if the coil was exhausted and didn't reach this 3,400 meters in length, then that means there is a shortage. So they will be able to give me this information also from the factory floor, that this coil that was written 3,400 meters, it was only able to produce 2,000 meters. So my shortage will be 1,400. But now this information must be obtained from the factory floor after production is complete. So in this case now, my total length of production is just 40 meters, and my quantity of the coil available is 2,400 meters. So that means there is no need for filling up excess or shortage. So I could just go ahead and click on add item to confirm this production order. Once I click the add item button, you now see that the quantity available, which was 3,400 meters, what is used for this production is 40 meters, and what will be left at the end of the day will be 3,559 meters. So once I go ahead and save this transaction, on completion of the production, I'm just going to run a second production again, second production order. So this time we can see how already existing coils are being used for production. So I select the same coil type, I'm selecting the same coil. So this time maybe I want unit of 50 and a cutting order of 5.9. For my regular met couple, I want unit of 100, cutting order of 12.9. So in total, the total length of the coil that will be used for this production will be about 1,679. I'm going to preview and confirm my order. Put a comment, second production test. So as I confirm my order, immediately after confirmation, I get my receipt, the total amount and the total length. So with this information, I can now move on to my production manager enter my invoice number, and now I now have provision of, you can see the total length for this order is 1679 meters. I now have the provision of selecting, since the coil has already been opened for production, I can now select the coil here as it is. It's going to show me a list of all coils that are currently being used for production. So I select the coil. You can now notice the change in quantity available. Now it's now reflecting the current quantity available as a result of the last production that we did. Click on save. So after this production, I will have 1680.47 meters left for this coil. Once finish this, I click on save. Brings a printout for the production order, and that's that. So now moving on to showing you historical usage of this coil. So what Hyella does is it allows us to monitor and track historical usage of each coil. So once I come to inventory and items usage history, I click on that, I can see the historical usage of each coil. So initially, this was when the coil was purchased, it came in as 1 unit. So it came in as 1 unit because then it hasn't been opened for production. When it was opened for production, it started off from 3,400 meters. 40.53 meter was used, and what was left was 3,559 meters. This was after the first production. After the second production, the coil was started with what was the closing stock of the first production. What was used for production, about 1,679, and what was left. So I can keep track. Hyella helps me keep track of each coil. I can see the history of how this coil has been used from beginning of time till the point whereby it's finished, and whether there will be resulting excess or shortage in this coil. So there are also reports that help me analyze this. Under my stock level reports, I can come to my stock reconciliation reports, whereby I can see a breakdown of the historical usage of this coil also. So this was what was received, then this was what has been used so far, and this is what is left. So likewise, there are other reports that still breaks down this information for me. I can see all these reports. So there are a whole lot of stock level reports that Hyella allows us to see. You can also sell entire coils, and this is based on when the coil hasn't been opened yet for production. So once the coils have been purchased and be sold as an entire unit, and during this sale you can still modify the price and whatnot of other information, like if you want to give a discount, but the quantity must always be 1, because there is only 1 unit of each coil. So this is an example of a sales of an entire coil. So you can just use the sales accessories, or you can go straight from the point of sales and easily sell an entire coil. So as you have seen, Hyella helps you capture from the receiving your aluminium coil to the point of capturing customers' production order. As you can see, Hyella helps you from the capture of your aluminium coils when you purchase them to receiving customers' production order down to the production manager. Also seen some reports. There are different types of financial reports that your accountant can help interpret for you if you don't have understanding of what each one represents. Then also under the financial accounts tab, we also have provisions using the post-transaction menu to handle your finances, your company's finances. You can pay vendors from here. You can record expenses, for example, expenses like transport, business, day-to-day expenses or running costs can be captured. You can use this to capture payment of liabilities such as loans and equities. You can use this to handle purchase of assets, to record other incomes that are not received through sales. Other incomes can be recorded here. And also receive customer payment when the customer makes payment. For example, I'm going to use Samuel, a jigger. Let's say Samuel wants to make payment. You're going to see a list of all the invoices that he hasn't paid for. So this was the first invoice we started this tutorial with. So you can see the invoice, I just pulled it out, and it's by default it will calculate how much Samuel or that customer is owing on that invoice. You can capture those details. You can set the mode of payment if you're using if the mode he's paying into any of your bank accounts or he's paying through cash. Set a description, payment from Samuel, and move on to click on the post transaction. So it would have recorded it that Samuel has paid. So let's confirm this by checking Samuel again. So I select Samuel once more. I select the invoice, and you can now see it shows paid in full. So you can use this to record payments from customers. You could also use this to manage lending to staff and lending to non-staff. That's when you're borrowing money, lending to staff in the form of salary advances and loans to staff and to non-staff. Then finally, there's a post general transaction button. Clicking on this takes you to a general accounting ledger that your accountants can use to manage other account types. So this just shows you in a summarized version that Hyella has been completely customized for an aluminium company and can handle the finances or financial activities of that company as any standard accounting software would be capable of doing. So thank you very much.